Hey, you all. Welcome back to the channel. Bitcoin Hex Jesus here. And I wanted to speak to you all today about perhaps the best Bitcoin Hex review I've seen. I believe the gentleman's name here is Adam Stokes. He's either from Australia or living in Australia. So, hello to our friends down under. Um, and he gave this very objective review about Bitcoin Hex. And I could tell he invested quite a bit of time in this video. It's about an hour long, and he uses quite a bit of slides and things to represent and help people understand exactly how Bitcoin has works. So I'm going to leave a link in the description to his video. I wanted to comment and tell him how good of a job I felt he did explaining Bitcoin hacks. Um, but I just felt like comment wasn't going to be able to discuss enough details about some of the things he said in the video and some of the very helpful details he mentioned in the video. And so that's why I just decided to go ahead and do this video. But I wanted to, I'm not going to show any of the video or play any of the video. This is just kind of a list at the end he gave because he gave a very objective view about Bitcoin Hex. It was a fair review. I thought he handled it well. He didn't just try to shill it, like a lot of people are doing now, probably myself included. I might be a little guilty of some shilling too. That's kind of nature of the game. But the only reason I think I'm comfortable putting Bitcoin Hex out there because similar to my own project, you get the cryptocurrencies without paying for them. So as long as are on that level with it, I don't see where the risks are off, are set on you. But once you go further with that and your desires start to take over, then it kind of becomes, your own device. But I think Adam does a great job, and he talks about all the pros of Bitcoin Hex. So it's a very fair review, and I'm not going to go over all of that, but what I want to focus on is what he brings up as the red flags, and no particular reason because, much like myself, Adam is he's a Richard Hart fan. Believes he's a smart guy, knows exactly what he's talking about, and I think we both believe this project will be a very good project. But there was just some things that came up in the video that maybe I can shed a little bit more light on, or maybe some information I picked up by watching some of Richard Hart's videos that maybe weren't in this video. I can kind of throw it in there a little bit. But I mean, it's just an awesome video, guys. The way it's done, the time he spent editing it and putting it together. Make sure you watch the full video. The link will be available in the description. But he really explains a lot of and it's not that Richard Hart doesn't do a good job of explaining, but the quality of this explanation that Adam does, and I think because I myself am very audio visual, I learn from being able to see what's going on and pictures and descriptions, and so that really was right down my alley, right? I'm a video audio person. I don't like a lot of reading and but anyway, he does all these little cool images and things, and makes the video look really nice. And Richard Hart explains it great, but I think this type of learning and educating people on Bitcoin Hex does a really good job. So let's look at some of the red flags Adams came up with in his very fair objective review. And I just want to talk about it a little bit. So he said it was because it's an ERC20 based token, it's somewhat hypocritical, and that was based primarily on that it's like this Bitcoin fork and it's using Ethereum. But I just want to add to that Richard Hart does explain that the only components of Bitcoin related to this project is the fork itself when the tokens are rewarded, from the Bitcoin holders, and that's it. After that stage, there is no connection to Bitcoin. But here's the only thing I want to interject into that, where he kind of has the question mark and hypocritical. I would have to say that I don't believe that's necessarily hypocritical, because there are several definitions of forks. There are hard forks, there are soft forks, and then there's this type of version of a fork that's mostly like an airdrop. And, probably most people just call it airdrop, but it's not inaccurate to call it a fork, because one basic definition of a fork is that it, to some degree, inherits the Bitcoin ledger, which is what Bitcoin Hex does. It inherits the Bitcoin ledger, right? And even though it's running on ERC20, it still can kind of take that definition and not be inaccurate, right? Even though I know a lot of developers and technical people will say, oh, that's bogus. It's nothing to do with Bitcoin. It's all Ethereum. But whether you want to call it semantics or not, that is the definition of a fork as well. So, then he talks about the Bitcoin and name, is it hypocritical? I think that kind of, answers the question from what I just said about, it being based on ERC20. Unless he was speaking of the idea of it being based on ERC20, that, Richard Hart had spoken, negative about Ethereum, which I think he still does to a great degree, to some degree, but he says it's the best thing that's out there that's available, right? And so he uses that, for example. Now, here where he says with the massive supply, yes, I have to agree with him on that. I would say, not necessarily I would consider it a red flag, because a lot of tokens have massive supplies, right? But it would still be a turnoff. I would just say it that way, right? I would still consider it a turnoff. I think I would have preferred something more like just like it being like matching the Bitcoin ledger all the way, like 21 million tokens. But because I don't fully understand the programming in this and the math in this, maybe it's I'm sure it's a reason why that, or maybe it's just attractive pricing or appealing pricing. Here he says no application. Right, he's basically saying that, okay, it's not going to really do anything except just stake these coins, right? But kind of covered that in some of my other content and videos as well. And I just wanted to say that, that's kind of a matter of perception, because when you say no application, you have to kind of look at it like, when there's a network effect or something, and I can kind of say there is, because Richard Hart is kind of a brand and a network onto himself, and he has people who believe in him and his project. It kind of creates value in him in the project. And so, it really doesn't matter if it's not designed to have a specific application or be a money or anything like that, as long as people are willing to believe it has value, and people are even willing to perhaps eventually someday accept it, and trade it back and forth, which is probably what they'll be doing on an exchange. It can be kind of used as as this way to move your value. And so to that degree, even though it may not be one of the best ideas of utility or use case or application that you might like, it is and still can be that, based on him already having that network effect there. So the next negative thing he was saying was that it was this aggressive response in an interview. And I actually saw that interview. It was I think it was the guy who does his philosophy house or something like that. And he had another gentleman, I believe, there with him, who pretty much, was saying, kind of related to the no application definition. He was pretty much going to the idea that this didn't have a use case and where's the value in it, which is, a common, thing that's done in the cryptocurrency space. I've had the same type of arguments with some developers about where value lies. And, it just kind of goes back to um, uh, if there is a community, someplace, it could be any place, and they decide that some object, something that they consider to be money is going to be their local community money or token or what have you, and they agree upon that. There's a consensus on that, and then they can find a way for it not to be counterfeited. If you kind of like even go back to like in the United States, the Civil War era when the United States split in half due to Civil War. Then you had kind of federal dollars. Then you had like these Confederate dollars, right? And so, it really didn't matter, even though they had kind of split and the federal government was still saying they're part of the United States, it kind of didn't matter because at that point, when they formed these Confederate States and this idea to have their own money, they agreed upon that was going to have value and that was going to be money, whether the union felt it was or not. And so it's the same idea with a community. Once you got a network in a community that says, okay, we decide that this is going to be valuable or we like the idea of this, I mean, that's pretty much, the end of it. You got to function an economy as long as you got people willing to trade the value. Oh, where was I? I'm sorry. A dog tried to get my cat here. So, yeah, going back to the aggressive response in an interview. So this young gentleman, he kind of came in with that idea of a use case not being there with Bitcoin Hex, and because of that, he didn't think it had that, and so I think Richard got a little frustrated with him. But to be honest, I have kind of been in a similar situation where I've got kind of a little bit irritated as well. I didn't become aggressive to the developers and various people in the space asking the questions. But the thing is, what irritates me about what that young man did in that interview, this is a common thing that happens in the cryptocurrency space, and it's where developers and a variety of people try to implant in you what is supposed to be valuable, right? And they don't really have the ability to do that, right? The public decides what's valuable, right? We as the people, the community decides what's valuable. Just because a token or a project doesn't follow certain protocols that you designed or put in place, or are part of ideas of how you think things should work, right? Like, like like some people, if the token doesn't have a blockchain, right, they kind of go on about that, and the token not really having value, that it doesn't even have its own blockchain. But there are many projects that build blockchains just for tokens to run on them. Isn't it a little bit ridiculous to then demonize the tokens that use them? Doesn't mean it's not a good blockchain they're running on, right? So for people to then go, well, it doesn't have its own blockchain, thus it's not valuable, I think it's a very ridiculous notion as well. But yeah, it's just this kind of kind of forced idea of what should be valuable and what shouldn't be valuable. But so it is very irritating, right? So I've been essentially, which I've been as irritated as well. But at the same time, I would have been civil about it. And I've seen Richard far worse, handle things far worse than that. But I could tell it was kind of frustrating. It was frustrating for me too, simply because I've gone through that a great deal. So if you've gone through that a lot, then you'll understand it more. But just kind of looking at how the conversation went, yeah, you'd probably be like, okay, he's getting a bit defensive about the project, like, it's questions he doesn't want to answer. But I don't think it was that at all. I think it's just these group of people who want to force their idea or concept of what is and what should be valuable on others. And value and how people find value in projects and products doesn't quite work that way, right? Just because you go put a ton of work in building something, it's all about function and utility and use, right? And when you achieve that, it's not always necessary to go spend another million or $1 billion just to build some type of project or blockchain so developers can make money when it might not have even been necessary to do that, right? Maybe you should have piggybacked off of another blockchain or used those services that they were created for. Maybe you didn't have to go out and create another blockchain. So that's just my take on that. The Ethereum gas charge for each operation. Yeah, with Ethereum, I'm not a big fan of Ethereum. I'm not sure if that's a red flag or just a bad, as far as it being a scam. I think it's just maybe just a shortcoming on Ethereum, right? I'm not a big fan of Ethereum, but I believe Richard Hart knows what he's talking about, and Ethereum, it's the safest, he says, for this particular project, the second largest, most secure blockchain, and that may very well be the case. But I still very much hate Ethereum. I do not like Ethereum, right? I think I'm a Waves man. I love the Waves decentralized exchange. I know some people don't like Waves, but all right, too bad. I like it. And on this part, he goes that he disagrees that people don't pay each other. That's something he's going on what Richard said, that people don't really pay each other. And I'm trying to remember that part of the interview specifically. It's getting a little bit cloudy, but I think it had to do something with how people give all their money to corporations, but they don't really have a direct payment to one another. So it's really no point in paying each other. And Mr. Adam Stokes here, he disagreed with that. He said he gave some very interesting examples of how people pay each other, and they were valid. And I'm trying to remember exactly what they were, but I do remember that I understood the full context of what Richard was saying about it, because it was more of this very significant, large group of people who use the corporations, send their money to the corporations more so than we do each other, to the point that it was very minuscule to the methods in which we pay each other. And I need to watch that part again to read what Mr. Stokes examples he gave on that. But other than that, I just thought this video was awesome. Oh, I just wanted to add one more thing too that happened in the video. He did say something to the effect of that these tokens won't be liquid, that they won't trade on an exchange for probably about a year or something like that. And that's a very common thing that's been coming up in my projects as well. Or I'm sorry, on my thread as well, people asking me, well, is this going to be a liquid token, and the importance of it being liquid? And if we put our money in, we want to be able to get it out. We don't want to be stuck here staking for a year or 2 years or 5 years, right? That's a great concern to a lot of people. And so what I recall that Richard Hart has said in several videos now, so I'm pretty sure that is the case, and that is that IDEX, the IDEX exchange, wants to list Bitcoin Hex. Now, I don't know what time frame we're talking about here, but it does come up quite a lot that it is a desire that IDEX wants to be listed. And I don't think Richard Hart would keep mentioning that from interview to interview if that wasn't part of the plan. So I would have to say that, Bitcoin Hex, based on seeing several interviews with Richard Hart, mention that. And I understand his position. This is a decentralized product. He has to be careful what he says to keep it very decentralized so that he passes the Howey test, the SEC test, so he's not considered a security, right? He doesn't want to, fall under the umbrella of a security, then you have to go through all the various regulations, right? So he's very careful with how he says things. But from what I gathered, IDEX has been mentioned quite a bit, and that it will be traded on IDEX, and the time frames of that aren't given. But it does. If IDEX wants to go ahead and list it, I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be a pretty much a fast process with that. But I think that's pretty much everything in this video. Other than that, this video is awesome, guys. I want to link it. I'm going to send a comment over to Mr. Stokes and have him, take a look at the video, because I want to make a comment to him, but I just didn't feel it would be adequate enough to try to write this down. I thought it'd be easier just to make a video, and I can kind of go into detail a little bit about some of his points. But great video, guys. Going to answer a lot of the questions that you all were asking. I just want to do one more thing. Let me see if I can do it here on my device. Just hold on one second here. I'm going to attempt to get over to Coinomi, because there was this one thing that happens a lot when people ask the question how to trade their Bitcoin hex, right? How to, and I'm already in there, but how to sign, how to do it, how to sign, right? And this is inside Coinomi, right? And the Coinomi is very easy to get, but there is a button, and I don't want to show any of my account information. I already had the screen open, but you're going to download Coinomi. And when you go into Coinomi, on the top right-hand side, there's I believe these 3 dots. You hit those, and there's going to be a button that says sign, verify message. Now, a lot of wallets don't have this function, and that's going to make it very difficult for you to claim. But as you can see how it looks, because I've seen no videos where people actually show you what it looks like to go inside your wallet and sign. But it's real simple. Right here on the signing address, and I actually got a video too, by the way, I'll link to in this that shows you how to exactly do it step by step. But you see, here's the signing address. You're going to put your wallet address here, and you're going to write that little message there, and you're going to put a signature. And then when you hit verify, it's going to be or sign rather, it's going to be on the blockchain with a message. With that message there is going to be communicated back and forth between you and Bitcoin Hex, and you're going to put that message there. It's going to actually you're going to sign that. You're going to get the signature key. You're going to put whatever message that Richard Hartz wants you to put in there. It's going to tell you on the site Bitcoin Hex. So you're going to put your address on the top bar. You're going to put the message that he's telling you to put there, and then when you hit sign here, it's going to send it over the blockchain. So when you hit verify, you're going to get this key where you can put in this key. You're not going to put the signature in. The signature is going to generate itself, and you're going to actually put the signature over at the Bitcoin Hex claiming site when it's when Bitcoin Hex are ready to claim. They aren't ready to claim yet, but they will be when they're done with the project. You're going to put it in there. And so I just want to show you all how this works. And I'm pretty sure he said that Coinomi is a wallet that you can use in Bitcoin to do this. And I'll be honest, it's kind of, for a person who doesn't know how to do this, it's a little bit confusing if you've never signed with Bitcoin. And some wallets are very complicated to do it. Not real complicated, but probably more steps than you want to take with this project. And so with Coinomi, it just has the sign, verify message. And it's a few other good wallets that do have it. But that's how you have to do this. But if you're in a wallet that doesn't have this feature, yeah, it's going to be a problem for you. You will need to probably use a wallet like this that does that. But other than that, that's all I want to say. Adam Stokes' video is a great video. Does an excellent job of just breaking down everything in such beautiful details about how Bitcoin Hex works, what you need to know. But guys, that's all I want to say in this video. If you like content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, take care.